welcome back to the JR Takes Sportscast. I'm Ryan Rogers.
And as always, I am Jonah Hoffman.
And so we are about a week and a half out from the draft now, and today we're just going to be talking about the state of the Seattle Seahawks, as well as some little rumblings that have happened around the league involving a certain Tom Brady. But we'll get into that in a little bit. But yeah, so Jonah, post-draft, I know we went into bit of a deep dive of what we thought of the Seahawks picks individually. But how are you feeling about the franchise as a whole right now?
I'm feeling really good about the franchise as a whole. You know, when we initially traded Russ, March 8th or whatever day it was.
Yeah, it was March 8th.
I was obviously in a dark place, but
as a lot of us were.
But yeah, I'm feeling really good about our team right now. You know, we addressed the tackle positions, we addressed the corner positions, and the D line. So, yeah, I'm really excited to see what our guys can do. I've been watching some of the little mini clips of rookie mini camp and all that going on with the Seahawks social media page. So, yeah, I couldn't be more excited. I haven't been this excited really since 2012 about a Seahawks team. I mean, I expected us to go to the Super Bowl in 2013 and win. I just had a feeling that year, but I haven't been excited to see the potential in things I'm uncertain of since about 2012. Was the last time I had that feeling. So
yeah, to echo on that, I actually feel really similarly because I remember after the 2012 draft, we had just had a pretty good end of the season in 2011. Preceding that, I think they won like 4 out of their last 6 games or something like that. And actually, that's what the team did last year as well. The 2021 Seahawks. Yeah, I at that point, you know, we had a new quarterback, similar situation going on here. We had just drafted a bunch of players at key positions, and it was an unknown, but there was just a lot of optimism about it. And I totally agree. I think, you know, with the assets we got with the Russell Wilson trade, we got Charles Cross out of that deal, and Boye Mafe, Fant, Shelby Harris, Drew Lock, and I believe one of Kobe Bryant or Tariq Woolen. I can't remember which one it was because it was the 4th round pick we got from them, correct?
I'm not sure. I thought we got a second from them as well, didn't we?
We did. That was Boye Mafe.
Oh, okay. Yes. No, we traded them a 4th rounder.
That's what it was. So I think we got a 5th then, right? Because we got 5 picks and 3 players out of the deal.
Okay. I'm trying to think of the last episode because it had all of our draft picks, rounds, and the pick number. I feel like we had 2 5ths. Did we not?
We did, yeah. So I think
one of them was.
Oh, so you know what? It was either Tariq Woolen or it was Derek.
Let's just say it was either Derek or Tariq.
Yes, something with an eek. But
maybe we trade for Zeke.
I hope not. But anyways, you look at the way those assets played out, and granted, no one's even stepped on the field yet, but we haven't had a guy like Charles Cross as a prospect since Russell Okung, and I think Cross has a chance to be a lot better of a player than Russell Okung was.
Yeah, I'm really excited for Charles Cross, don't get me wrong, but I'm more excited about the other tackle we drafted because...
Oh, Abraham?
Yeah, I'm just excited to see what caliber player he's going to be, or you know, if he starts, or maybe he won't start the season. I would like to hope and think that he's going to, just because, you know, you want your 3rd round pick to start at a position that is currently vacant, or I mean, not vacant, but we only have 2 tackles.
Right,
had 2 tackles before the draft started, so you have to assume that there might not be that much competition there for him to start, but maybe there will be. We'll have to see.
Yeah, it remains to be seen, but I think what's really exciting about this time is because we, you know, got rid of so many veterans who were good players, but now there's actual competition, like not just coach speak. There's going to be legitimate competition at, like, you know, pretty much every position on the roster, you know, including quarterback. So I do think the competitions we're going to have in camp this summer and preseason are going to be legit, and the best man is going to win regardless of what capital was given up to obtain them.
Ryan, what do you think about the rumors of? Well, I guess they weren't rumors because Pete Carroll talked about him when he was asked this week. But KJ Wright on the potential of coming back.
That's
the team.
right.
Maybe not as a player, but as a coach. What do you think about that?
I mean, pretty much every member of the legendary Seahawks teams from 2012 to 2015, KJ Wright, Richard Sherman, Cam Chancellor, Lynch too, Marshawn, any and all of them that want to join the coaching staff, I'm all for it because I don't know how well being a great player transitions to being a coach. We've seen some good, some not so good examples of that, but KJ seems like a guy that's really invested in the organization still. I mean, I listened to the podcast he was on. He said the only place he's going to play for this next season is Seattle. He wants to come home. And that just warms my heart to hear. So,
well, yeah, and I guess I didn't realize that he had his whole family living up here while he played down in Oakland.
yeah.
So that was cool. And fun little fact, I actually saw him last September when we all went to a Mariners game. Saw him outside this bar, and I didn't even notice him. It was our friend Chris who thought that there was 2 Devontae Freemans in the league, pointed him out to me, and I was like, Chris, are you kidding me? You think that there's 2 Devontae Freemans, but you can spot KJ Wright in a big crowd of people in public without any football gear on? But yeah, no, I would be more than happy to see him join our coaching staff. Obviously, like you were saying, all of the Seahawks players from that 2013 season, really that 12, 13, 14 era, all those players kind of stamped a ticket to, Seahawks Hall of Fame caliber-esque in my book. Well, minus Percy Harvin because he was an asshole.
And he did like 2 things.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, I'm all for it. I hope it happens. I wonder if maybe not this offseason it happens, but the next one, maybe he just wants to take a year off and hang out with his family. I could totally see that happening too. But I would love it. It would make me super happy to see. And KJ, he seems like someone, because there's former Seahawks like Jordan Babineau, for example, that are in Seahawks media now. Mm-hmm. He seems like one of those guys that's going to stick with the organization post-football playing.
For sure.
Which makes me happy. I've always thought KJ Wright was very underrated. He kind of was in the shadow of Bobby Wagner, who, is like a modern day Ray Lewis in his impact at the middle linebacker position. But KJ, for many years there, was his right-hand man and arguably just as good at what he did.
Oh, yeah. He was definitely overlooked. I think probably because he wasn't he's not the way he plays linebacker, he's not a go-getter. Like, he's not going to go after the quarterback or blitz or anything like that. So I think maybe in that regard too, he went unnoticed a lot throughout his career. Mm-hmm. But I would love to have him back on.
Yeah, he was the kind of player that if you don't watch every Seahawk game, maybe you don't see the impact. But you and I both remember anytime a limb of his touched a player with the ball, they were on the ground.
Yeah.
He was a sure tackler.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, that would be great. I mean, that would be another step in this offseason that I would really, really like. But yeah, I'd honestly, it's interesting because I don't really think the Seahawks are going to be all that great this upcoming season. Whether it be Drew Lock or Geno Smith who wins the starting job, I think best case scenario, they're the 16th to 20th best quarterback in the league next season, optimistically, which would be fine. I mean, I think that'd be great if that happened. But best case scenario, I see the Seahawks perhaps grabbing the number 7 seed and making it in as a wild card team. The NFC is very weak this upcoming season. It's really, the big 3 in Green Bay, LA Rams, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that are going to be gunning for the Super Bowl on the NFC side, unless something weird happens.
I don't know. Teams like the 49ers always surprise you, like teams that kind of, you don't, because every year they've gone to the NFC Championship with, what's his name?
Jimmy G.
No, the coach. Well, I guess Jimmy G too.
Shanahan,
Kyle Shanahan. All the years that they've been relevant in terms of Super Bowls, no one expected them to do anything that year. Like, remember when they started off 8-0 that one year when they lost to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl?
True. I will say last season or last offseason, I remember seeing a bunch of power rankings that were putting the 49ers in the top 5. And I was like, why? Like,
exactly. Like, I mean, maybe the experts might have seen it. Well, when I say experts, I'm not referring to you and me, surprisingly enough. But no.
Shocking.
Yeah, the experts might have put them in the top 5 because I mean, if any West Coast team is gonna, get their balls sucked on a little bit, it's going to be the 49ers. Because
one of the two California.
It's usually
teams.
a California team that gets all the love and not the Seahawks.
Yeah, I think part of that, just my speculation, is Seattle is very far away from any other team, period. Like, there was just a thing that got posted on Twitter this week that the Seahawks were going to travel the most miles this season.
That's how it is with baseball too.
Yeah. But I mean, when I saw that, I was like, okay, they're usually, if not the most traveled team, like top 3 every year. So I hardly see how this is news.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just there's all the big media spots are distance wise very far away from Seattle. So maybe that's part of it. We need more people in the media like Mina Kimes that are Seahawks fans.
Oh, yeah. We love Mina Kimes.
Yes.
We really love Mina Kimes. Hopefully Mina Kimes can join us on our show one day.
That'd be awesome. Mina, if you're listening, you have been cordially invited to the JR Take Sportscast.
So that reminded me of another thing since we're talking about travel. What do you think of us playing Tampa Bay next year in Munich, Germany?
Yeah, I think that's exciting. Is this the first Germany NFL game?
I think so. We went to London.
We played Detroit in London.
Didn't we?
Yeah, it was 2018. They played Detroit in London.
We
no. They played the Raiders in London. That's what.
Right. Didn't we demolish them?
Yeah, and it was the only time we ever played against Marshawn Lynch post his Seahawks venture.
Right.
But yeah, no, the Raiders sucked that year. Derek Carr did terrible. We beat them pretty bad.
Yeah.
I actually remember in that game there was a drive where we ran the ball like 9 times in a row, and then Wilson threw a touchdown pass. It was like the most Pete Carroll drive of all time.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that game. I think I will be one of those fans waking up at 6:30 to watch the game. You're not? Are you going to DVR it, or are you just going to get up and watch it when it happens?
I have no choice. My body does not allow me to miss Seahawks games live, so I'll be up.
I've never been a DVR sport kind of guy.
No.
Like, DVRing sports doesn't make any sense to me.
I mean, and my fantasy apps are going to spoil the contest for me anyway, so it really makes no sense. But I pretty much wake up at 6:30 every day anyway, so it's really not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
For one Sunday. But yeah, no, I think that's going to be exciting. Yeah, man, it'd be great if all of Germany got to see us beat Tom Brady. What I would actually love to happen in that situation is for the Buccaneers to be like 6-1 at that point, and maybe we're like 3-4 or like 2-5 or something like that, and we just beat the Buccaneers for no reason.
That would be great. Yeah, I wouldn't mind that.
I'm fine with that being our Super Bowl next year. Is just the game against, because it might be the last time we ever get to see the Seahawks play Tom Brady, and I'd love to see us go out on a W, because I think the last time we played Tom Brady, well, I guess it was all the way back in 2016 when
in New England.
Yeah. That was a great game. That was CJ Pro.
Damn, that was that long ago.
2016.
We haven't played. Well,
we've played the Patriots since then,
but no Tom Brady.
Yeah, and the last time we played the Bucks was the year before he joined the Bucks.
Right.
But speaking of Tom Brady, so what do you think of his deal to join Fox whenever he's finally done throwing 5-yard passes to running backs?
I don't really know. I feel like, I mean, his voice doesn't really annoy me, so I think it'll be kind of cool listening to Tom Brady. I mean, his voice annoys me when he's screaming like this. Like, I hate that.
I was about to say,
Tom
are
Brady.
you sure it doesn't annoy you?
But I mean, hearing him like when Tony Romo first started, I was
skeptical.
I was skeptical, but then he like started predicting literally like 6 plays in a row, and I was like, oh, this is actually kind of fun watching and listening
Yeah.
to Tony talk.
Honestly, I feel like it was kind of an indictment on Troy Aikman when Tony started diagnosing all these plays before they happened, because it's like we've listened to Troy for years and he never does anything like that.
No, well, and the fact that Joe and Troy are going to
Monday night,
Monday
right?
Night Football,
Yeah.
so I guess they're replacing. Well, not next season, but I guess the following, when Tom Brady's not playing football anymore, he'll be whenever he's available. I don't really
Yeah.
know what the terms of the contract are, but
They have some pretty high faith in him if they're giving him 345 million. I mean, I'm sure he doesn't get it till he starts working for them, but that you're getting over $1/3 billion to talk about football. That's
Yeah.
nuts.
I mean, yeah, what he's gonna have to do, like, he's gonna have to come up with some new ESPN stats where he's gonna have to say shit like, oh, this guy's only thrown 10 passes on a Monday night when the moon has been full, and all this bullshit about
When Mercury's in retrograde. Yeah, I'm sure they will continue to confound us with the ridiculous situational stats they come up with.
yeah.
Like on turf fields in the month of February. Or I guess February doesn't make sense, but you get the idea.
Yeah. Well, I guess next topic of conversation I kind of wanted to bring up was earlier this week, or I guess late last week, we had Adam Schefter and all these reports come out about Ryan Tannehill commenting on the potential of being Malik Willis's mentor for the Tennessee Titans. What do you think about his comments on, it not being his job to sort of bring him up in the organization and eventually be the starting quarterback for that franchise?
Right. Well, it's kind of like, I don't know, people have been pretty quick to judge Tannehill for those comments, but I don't know. Let's say you're a senior level position at whatever company you work at, and they hire some 25-year-old that you know is going to take your job. Yeah, the good thing to do is to mentor them, but I mean, you naturally as a human being, you're going to think, well, I'm helping basically make my job security less secure, and so from Tannehill's perspective, he's thinking, this kid's trying to take my job. He's trying to take my paychecks. He's trying to take my opportunity to myself be the leader of this franchise and win a Super Bowl. So, I think everyone has this rose-colored view of what NFL locker rooms must be like. And from me personally, I'm speculating. I've never been in one of those locker rooms or in that position before. But I think there's a lot more personal competition in those locker rooms between players of the same position than we maybe be led to believe. But if you look at some other examples of starting quarterbacks, longtime starting quarterbacks, their franchise drafting or trading for another quarterback, there's not many examples I can think of where the starting quarterback was stoked about the situation. I mean, look at Aaron Rodgers just 2 years ago with the Packers drafting Jordan Love. He was clearly pissed off about that, and he paid them back with, I guess, 2 MVP awards to prevent them from starting Jordan Love. I remember when Ben Roethlisberger's reaction to
That's what I was going to bring up.
Mason Rudolph. That's right.
Was it Mason Rudolph though?
Yeah.
Because I feel like it happened maybe twice with Ben.
If it happened another time, I can't remember it. But I specifically remember him being pissed off about Mason Rudolph getting drafted.
Well, and remember Brady with Stidham?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so even the GOAT, would not be pushed out.
Yeah.
I mean, he plays for Tampa Bay now, but that's
still
unrelated.
Also, Brett Favre, this is going way back, but Brett Favre, when the Packers drafted Aaron Rodgers, was not happy about that.
I remember that.
And
yeah.
I've heard reports that he would make fun of Aaron Rodgers and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think actually Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers have a really good relationship now, but I know it was a bit contentious, and Aaron had to sit on the bench for 3 or 4 seasons before he was even the starter.
Yeah, I always forget how long he was a
Yeah,
on
he's
the
been in
bench
the
for.
league since '05, as long as Alex Smith.
Yeah.
But he didn't start playing. He wasn't the starter until 2008. But yeah, I feel like sometimes like Wilson, Stafford, and Rodgers are lumped into like the same generation. But Aaron Rodgers had been in the league for 7 years when Wilson got drafted. Like, it's not super comparable.
Yeah. Well, going back to Tannehill, he should try and help out his teammate. The way I look at it, like how you were comparing it to like a senior, whatever job they're working, and some 25-year-old comes in to eventually take their job. I think it's different when you play NFL football for a living. Like, you are a part of a team. Like, that is the most important thing, is the team. With that being said, though, playing devil's advocate, you look at all these players like Bobby Wagner, for example, that get released by their organization, and then you chalk it down to, oh, well, it's a business. Business is business. But you got to look at it both ways. You can't shame Ryan Tannehill for saying it's not my job to be his mentor, which it's not.
Yeah,
it's his job to win games for the franchise.
Exactly.
It's not his job to, make this guy mentally and physically ready to take over for him, because it is a business and he needs to make his money. There's only 32 total positions.
Yeah, in the world.
In the world. So you can't get mad at Tannehill for not being exactly stoked that they already have, plans to make him not in that position or that role. So, like, I get it. Like, yeah, Tannehill, chill. You should mentor the kid, but at the same time, like, everyone that's like chastising him, I think shouldn't be, because the time is limited in the NFL for everyone besides Tom Brady. So,
yeah, he is the only exception, but. Yeah, I could definitely see both sides, and when I initially saw the comments, I was like, oh, Tannehill's kind of a dick. But it's so funny how when you take one quote out of context and not listen to the actual statement someone gave, you can get a whole idea in your head of their character. But if you actually listen to the soundbite, it was not said out of animosity at all. I mean, it was a moment of transparency, which I'm all for. Yeah, the less ingenuine, cookie cutter press conferences we get from players, the better, in my opinion. But yeah, no, I can definitely see both sides in that situation. But it's just a picture of how the NFL really is, I think. But on Malik Willis, so I saw some rumors on Twitter this week that apparently the Seahawks front office thought Malik Willis was nowhere near ready to be a starting quarterback in the NFL.
Oh, really? I didn't see those.
Yeah,
rumors.
I think like Tom Pelissero, one of those guys, tweeted about it. And granted, you got to take rumors with a grain of salt, but it does, speak to the actions that they took during the draft. Because
they had the opportunity to take him at pick number 72, and they didn't.
They had 4 chances to take him.
Yeah.
If you started at pick number 9. And they didn't do it, which, emotions aside, weeks later, I'm actually kind of glad that they didn't take him at this point, because we have Abraham Lucas, we have Boye Mafe, Kenneth Walker. I'm very excited about. I think, the backfield of him and Rashad Penny is, on paper, one of the best in the league already. So I think they made the right choice, but it's interesting how we had this perception from the media about Malik Willis that like he was going to be, top 10 pick, like clearly the most and he was clearly the most physically talented quarterback in the draft. But from the beginning of the draft process, when I was doing my research on, especially after the Wilson trade, when I knew the Seahawks were maybe going to draft a quarterback, all I heard was how Malik Willis is very raw, and the offense that they ran at Liberty was like, Willis would look at his first read, and if it wasn't open, would run, basically. So it makes sense.
Well, and that is just another example of being swayed by the media,
Mhm.
even if you have your own. Like, for example, when we were doing our mock drafts and whatnot, I remember I liked Drake London the best of all the receivers in the receiving class coming up. But I was like, I kept seeing rankings of Garrett Wilson being higher and taken
Uh-huh.
higher than London. So I was like, damn, well, I don't really know much about Garrett Wilson. I didn't get to see highlights of him play as much as London, but I guess he's better because everyone's ranking him higher.
Exactly.
And lo and behold, in the draft, London went before Garrett Wilson. So it's just like I should have just gone with my gut.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean the media definitely has its ways of hyping up a player more so than they should be. Not to say Malik Willis, he is very raw. He does have the talent, and it is clearly there. But are we willing to wait 2, 3, I don't know, 4 seasons for him to be ready? Like, we don't have that kind of time. Pete Carroll doesn't have
certainly
that
doesn't have that time.
kind
Yeah.
of time. So, and that's something I never really considered either. Is Pete's probably thinking, well, I mean, I don't know what is said behind closed doors with Jody and whatnot, but I would imagine he's not willing to take on a project quarterback at 71 years old. So,
And if the Seahawks suck this year, it makes a lot more sense to use one of our high picks next year because the quarterback class allegedly is going to be a lot better. I mean, you have Bryce Young out of Alabama, CJ Stroud out of Ohio State, and then even the second tiers of guys that are maybe not projected to go top 5, but the Mac Joneses of the world. They're a lot better. I mean, Kenny Pickett was the only guy taken in the first round this last year. So Kenny Pickett as a prospect was a tier below even a Mac Jones. So I think that right there says a lot about what the league as a whole thought of this class. So I think it was good process. Real quickly, you were talking about predictions earlier. I have to give myself a little pat on the back because I won the field goals armchair GN contest for predicting the most players that the Seahawks ended up drafting. I am Fuazimoto. So John P. Gilbert, if you happen to be listening, thanks for running that contest. That was fun.
do you just win anything other than your name being number one?
Yeah, I just get to learn that I'm a loser and need to spend less time.
Maybe not though. I mean,
tracking
we're doing
football.
this. We're talking about the Seahawks. and
Yeah,
shows
yeah.
you have a little bit of insight and know what you're talking about. So
True. It was more, if nothing else, validation that I'm not a complete moron when it comes to the sports analyst stuff.
yeah,
So anyways, that was kind of cool. Field Goals is a great site for all Seahawks fans out there. If you're listening, they post articles every day. So
you're like Malik Willis. The raw talent is there. You need a couple years in the biz, and then you'll be talking with Mel Kiper Jr. For the upcoming draft picks.
yeah, I need to get lessons in body mannerisms from Mel Kiper.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm rooting for Malik Willis. It'll be interesting to see, a couple years down the line if he ends up becoming a starter in the NFL. I think for sure at some point he's going to get a chance. Jalen Hurts was a very similar prospect coming out of, he was Alabama. Then did he go to?
He went to Oklahoma.
That's where he went. Yeah. And maybe you could say Hurts was a little more NFL ready because he played against stiffer competition. But his closest comparison is Malik Willis as far as prospects coming out the last few years. They're built really similarly. I think Willis is a little thicker, but both Willis, they can put him in as a rookie for specific packages as a runner, I think, because his rushing ability is already right now in the NFL. I mean, you'd put like Lamar Jackson at the top, obviously. Then you have Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts, and I think you could put Willis right in that category as far as mobility goes.
What was his 40 time again?
He didn't run it at the combine.
Oh, okay.
But when he was like a junior or something, sophomore maybe, he ran supposedly a 4.37. that's really fast. But what's
Yeah.
interesting is Lamar didn't run at the combine either. And I wonder if these mobile quarterbacks are choosing not to run at the combine because they don't want to hurt their draft stock in case they don't get the exact time that people think they're supposed to run. I don't know. It's hard to say why they choose not to do it. But what's actually interesting is I heard Pete Carroll say this last weekend when talking about rookies that he's not into a prospect if they're choosing not to do stuff at the combine when they're healthy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because he thinks that has something to do with their competitiveness or something. I don't know. I'm speculating, but he made a comment to the Seahawks media on like Saturday or Sunday or something, talking about the fact that so many guys were choosing not to run, and that he was kind of like, "Well, fuck you then."
Yeah. I mean, I understand that. I think some of that maybe comes with the fact that he's 71 years old.
That's
maybe
what I
he's
think
a little bit
too.
old school, and he's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, well, back in my day, you did all the things." Blah blah blah. I don't know if he thinks this or said this, but that's what I think of when I hear that.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, Pete, you're getting a little old school on us there. Maybe there's a reason that they didn't run. It probably doesn't have to do with competitiveness, but it might. Like, that is a good theory. I mean,
Yeah. And maybe I misunderstood his comment there too. That's always a possibility, but it seemed pretty clear to me that like the mentality of the prospect plays a lot bigger of the role in where the Seahawks place people on their draft board than you might think. Which makes me wonder about like if a guy like Thibodeau did fall to them, would they take him? I think they would have. But yeah, there's the draft process is just so interesting, and one thing I've noticed about all the guys the Seahawks took this year is they all seem to be very high character guys, which I know is kind of a dumb thing to say, but you listen to all of the press conferences I've listened to, they've been very well spoken and just seem like nice dudes.
yeah, I listened to Kobe Bryant was on the 710 podcast that I listen to almost every morning or when I'm not at work. And he seemed like just a put your head down and work type of kid. He's not like big personality, like cocky. I mean, maybe he is, but he certainly didn't come off that way in the interview that I listened to with him in
Right.
it. And maybe that has something to do with him being in the shadow of Maude Gardner.
Could be.
Because, I mean, his numbers in college weren't insane. Like, they weren't crazy, but they weren't, like, anything to, like, frown over. So,
Yeah, I mean, he won the Thorpe Award for best defensive back in the nation. So, yeah, he's no slouch. I'm surprised he was there at the 4th round. I think he's a case of people maybe buying a little too much into combine measurables because he's 6'1", 190 something. And ran a 4.5, mid 4.5s, but it's not like that's slow.
yeah.
Yeah, actually, I think Kobe Bryant has a chance to start for us this year. We'll see what happens in camp, and they signed a bunch of corners. I think Woolen is probably a year or two away from starting. But it was kind of fun. I saw this picture of Pete Carroll working with Tariq Woolen, who's a giant, by the way. He was like a head taller than Pete Carroll. But he was doing some extra work with him after practice on technique. And that just is like, yes, it's so exciting to see because as a developmental prospect, I don't think there's ever been, just a mold of a player more exciting than Tariq Woolen. But yeah, he's like a Malik Willis, but as a cornerback. All the physical tools are there, but he was playing receiver 2 years ago. So
Yeah, I know that would be, I mean, I obviously want to have positive expectations and hope for Tariq, but that would be a total bummer if it didn't pan out with him because you don't get a lot of 6'4", 200 something, 210. What is he?
he was listed at 205.
205. Yeah. You don't get a whole lot of those type of players who are that fast.
Yeah, it's
Especially.
basically like if I was like an inch and a half taller and could run a 4.2.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is, I can't imagine being able to move that quick. It's awesome that I am very happy that we took the cornerbacks where we did. Not because I wasn't excited by someone like Stingley or Gardner, but the Pete Carroll has demonstrated time and time again. I feel like I'm a broken record with this, but he's great at coaching up defensive backs, and in the system we run, um, it seems like corners are asked to do a couple of things specifically very well, but we don't generally have someone that like you remember Revis and Patrick Peterson would just follow the number one receiver all game.
That was their
and play
style.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't really do that. But Kobe Bryant demonstrated that he was really good at man and zone coverage at Cincinnati, which is awesome because that gives us versatility. But yeah, one last thing I wanted to mention about the draft class was the two receivers we got at the end of the draft in the 7th round. Apparently they were, well, I think Derek Young might not have been at the Senior Bowl, but Bo Melton was at the Senior Bowl and was at teammates with Woolen on the same Senior Bowl team. I'm not sure how it works, or maybe they were roommates or something. But anyways, I think like 5 or 6 out of the 9 players we drafted were entrants at the Senior Bowl this last year. And if you go back to the last couple of draft classes the Seahawks have had, a good percentage of them were participants of the Senior Bowl. So I'm starting to think for years forward when we're making our draft predictions, just look at who played in the Senior Bowl and look at positions of need, and right there you're gonna get a pretty good options.
I'm kind of surprised then that Bo Melton fell to us. If he was in the Senior Bowl,
he was at the Senior Bowl, and he ran a 4.3 something at the combine.
Well, one thing I wanted to mention too is like I'm glad we didn't take a receiver high because was it you that was saying we had wide receiver needs? Or
I mentioned that because right after the Wilson trade, there was rumors that the Seahawks were looking to trade for a wide receiver, which I thought was kind of weird. And I'm glad they didn't because, like, God, look at the wide receiver market this summer.
That's what I was going to say is you can just go out and get an athlete. Like, there are I feel like the threshold of, like, next level top tier receiver is that is a real thing. That is a limited number. But there are a bunch of talented receivers in the NFL.
Yeah.
And I don't think there is probably not as hard to find diamonds in the rough for that position as there are compared to other positions.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many kids out there now that are running in the 4.3s. It's insane. I remember that used to be a rare number to be hitting at the combine.
Well,
but
it's just like any like all the big American sports. Like think about pitching in baseball. People are throwing 103, 104 now. Eventually, they're going to have to move the mound back, and it's like that's kind of similar with football players. Everyone's getting faster.
Yeah,
it's just the
bigger,
game,
faster, stronger,
louder. But yeah, no, the game across all sports, the games are just elevating and changing over time.
I think it's just kind of the natural thing that happens is more as sports become bigger and more global because Mafe, for example, he's clearly of African descent, but I think he grew up in a West European country. I can't remember which one, but I think he grew up in I know I'm wrong, but like Finland or something like that. But Mafe hasn't even been playing football, period, for more than like 3 or 4 years, I want to say. Wow. So he's really raw, but he ascended to the 2nd round of the NFL draft just because he's such a freak athlete. And I'm glad the Seahawks are swinging on some kids that have the things that you can't teach. Because I think we do have a good coaching staff. I know they've taken a lot of flack in recent years, but I still have faith in Pete Carroll when it comes to the defensive stuff. It seems like his say in what happens with the offensive staff is kind of dwindled a bit because, we took Charles Cross, we took Abraham Lucas. These are pass blocking aficionados. So I'm wondering if that's a Jody Allen thing or if it's a Shane Waldron thing. Maybe it is a Pete Carroll thing. Maybe I'm just totally wrong, but Either way, he made a comment at the beginning of this offseason that maybe he's been a bit arrogant in how things have gone the last few years, which is, it was cool to see some self-awareness and humbleness from him about that.
Especially, I mean, I know this isn't everything, but especially how old he is. Like, if he's still reflecting and learning on his mistakes and failures, that at least is encouraging that he's willing to maybe reflect on that type of stuff and improve on it moving forward. Which, honestly, I was wanting him gone a little bit, like probably a month ago. Probably even up till right before the draft, honestly. But seeing how the draft went, I'm like, okay, I am really excited for these players to step onto the field and see what they can do. Hopefully, Pete and John can just kind of make a mold of what they did 10 years ago.
Yeah, I think as we were kind of talking about this on the last episode, but this draft was absolutely critical for Pete and John, because the day of the Wilson trade, I was like, what the hell have either of these two guys done the last 4 or 5 years that makes me have any faith in them? And it was hard to come up with a legitimate answer to that question. But seeing these draft decisions, there wasn't one move they made that pissed me off and seemed like a reach. So I do have a lot more faith in them, that they could actually pull this off. And I don't think it is going to happen this next year. It's all going to come together. And I don't really care that it does, because next year, 2023, the Seahawks have 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, no more cap constraints from the Wagner and Wilson contracts. And man, having all that capital plus the cap space to get the, you always have to pay a premium to get free agents to Seattle because for whatever reason, it seems like it's hard to convince people to come to the Northwest.
Probably because they don't want to travel as much as the Seahawks do.
Yeah, because you got to think, their family is, most football players are from the South or the East.
Well, that's why it's really hard for the Mariners to sign big name free agents, because no one wants to go to Seattle.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty awesome out here. You guys should be more willing to come to the Northwest. But
honestly, the rain is even cool. Like,
yeah, you get used to it.
Fucking hate when people cry about the rain. It's just like, dude, the rain is awesome.
Get over it. But yeah, no, the Seahawks have a chance in 2023 to be a contender again. The only thing they got to figure out is quarterback, and who knows, maybe they've already figured it out. We just haven't had a chance to see horse cock lock yet. But
Levi Lefty Lewis, is he a lefty?
He is a
lefty.
lefty.
I make that up?
No, you did it.
Lefty Levi is what I'm going to start calling
Little
him.
Lefty Levi.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, God, what a storyline that would be if he makes the team, or becomes the starter.
Yeah.
But
or even makes the team.
Yeah, that's already going to be a story in and of itself. But yeah, no, I think the future is very bright for the Seattle Seahawks, and everyone should be excited about 2022, even if they're bad.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, that pretty much wraps up all I had for this one, Jonah. You got anything else?
No, we pretty much hit every topic I wanted to discuss. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. As always, I've been Jonah Hoffman.
I've been Ryan Rogers. Thanks for tuning in to the JR Takes Sportscast. We'll see you next time.